Welcome to this week's edition of Retire Simply DFW, brought to you by the team from Compass Retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined today by Scott and Angela Winstead. They are co-founders of Compass Retirement. Scott, Angela, it's so nice to see you. How are you this week?
Wonderful, thank you.
So good being with you.
Yes.
Oh, I'm excited. We're going to have a great show. This is going to be so much fun.
Yes, I agree.
Well, I know that you are super committed to helping folks be able to make retirement as simple as possible. And if you are home today and you've ever asked yourself the question, how much income am I actually going to need in my retirement? And if you've wondered if you actually have enough, you're not going to want to miss today's show. So let's start with that. We're going to be talking all about income planning today. And first of all, why is it that folks need to really understand this critical component of income? What makes income planning so critical in retirement?
You know, it's so important, Kristen, because what we found really is without income, you really don't have a retirement, right? And we like to talk about, income allows you to have choice.
Yes.
And that's so important. If you really think about it, right? The more income someone has in retirement, the better trips they get to take.
Right.
The more income they have, right? The more they get to do with their kids and their grandkids and their family. The more income they have, the more choices they have. And we all love having choices. So we have found that income is so important when you're starting to talk about retirement planning.
Well, obviously, it's such a critical thing, and there's different types of income. So what do our listeners and viewers need to understand about the types of income that are available to them in retirement?
Well, with our RetireSimply plan, we break income down into two categories. So we break income down into guaranteed income, and then we break income down into non-guaranteed income. And that sounds...
Guaranteed and non-guaranteed.
That's right.
Important distinction.
It
Okay.
is, right? And so we think about non-guaranteed as just being money that you might be able to take freely from, depending on what your lifestyle is dictating, right? Maybe you want to take that big trip or something like that. The guaranteed income would be things like your Social Security or a pension.
Right.
We call it mailbox money. So money that's going to hit the mailbox on the 15th of every month.
You know it's going to be there every month for
That's
you.
right. And we find that a lot of times as we're planning, we want folks to have a good amount of both guaranteed and non-guaranteed income so they have flexibility in their retirement.
So talk to me a little bit about the difference between those two. Obviously, we understand, by definition what they are and some of the different types, but what is it that people need to understand about those differences?
I think the main thing is understanding that when you have an income goal, so let's say I wanted or you wanted $5,000 a month in retirement, and Social Security might guarantee you a total of $3,000. Well, what we want to do is say, okay, that's going to be our guaranteed $3,000. We know we want $5,000. So now how do we need to position things within your plan to make sure that that other $2,000 is going to be somewhat predictable to you, but if your lifestyle changed a little bit and you didn't need $5,000 maybe one month, you can always scale that back, because when we're in control of our income, we're in control of our taxes. And that's another big area that we want to plan for in retirement.
Right.
Yeah, and we find, when we're talking, we actually call that the sit on the porch number.
Sit on the porch
yes,
number.
We call that the sit on the porch number, because everyone has a very unique desire in retirement, right? When we visit with people in the office, oftentimes their biggest request is, hey, I just want to be able to live my life with the lifestyle that I'm living now. That's really their number one goal that, in our office that we find. And that sit on the porch number is so different for everybody. For example, I was working with a wonderful client of ours, and her name's Tony. And Tony did a fantastic job in making sure that her house was paid for, her expenses were low, she was really on top of her spending, and she needed $3,000 a month. That's her sit on the porch number.
Right.
Then I have other folks where they're a big, beautiful home, which is fantastic, but they're not fully done paying for it. And they've got some other things that they're taking care of.
Right.
And their sit on the porch is around $9,000. And the reason I share that is because everybody's sit on the porch number is different. So what exactly is a sit on the porch number, right?
Right? Yes, unpack that for us.
Yeah. So that's really the amount of money that it keeps you, the amount of money it takes you to live every month. I was sharing this with a girlfriend, and she was saying, well, tell me exactly what that is. I said, sure. I said, think about every penny that you spend. Okay, what do we really need? We spend a lot of pennies that we don't need to spend, but we can spend.
Right.
But I'm talking about the ones that we need.
Absolutely.
So we broke that into, you have to have somewhere to live. So either you're going to be paying property taxes or maybe a mortgage, possibly rent. But that's the first thing that we have to take into account.
Right.
After that, what are the utilities, right? We all have different utilities. I oftentimes say cable doesn't count as a utility, but if it's important to you and you count
for
it as
some folks, maybe, right?
I think the main takeaway with it, Kristen, is making sure that the things that need to get paid for, we call them the have-tos.
Yes, right.
We've got a plan for that. Then we want to layer on the want-tos, right? And so that may be the big trip or something like that, but that sit on the porch number for the have-tos has to be there for a successful retirement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And do you find that when a lot of folks come in that they have this income gap, that there's a gap between how much income they know they're going to have guaranteed in retirement and what they need to cover their have-tos?
Absolutely. We definitely find that most people have a gap. Now, it may be a lot or it may be a little, and that's where the customization of the plan comes in, our RetireSimply plan, to help them with that. But usually there is a little bit of a monthly gap that we need to account for. And that's, again, where we want to then position the rest of the money to be able to support that gap.
Right.
And the goal being, hey, can we generate enough income and interest so that we only live off of the money we're making and not touching our principal as we're moving through retirement?
Absolutely. So much stuff to take into consideration, right?
Yeah, lots of times I share with people, all we want to do is scrape the cream off the top, right? We want our money to keep producing for us, so let's just scrape the cream off the top.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I know we have so much more to talk about today, but how do we scrape the cream off the top, right? How do we make sure that we close that income gap? How do you even know how much income you are going to need in retirement? We are going to take a quick commercial break, but I know you've put together a special offer for our viewers today. Would you like to share what that is?
Absolutely. So if you're sitting there and let's say maybe you're 3 to 5 years from retirement, or you're actually in retirement and you've been able to save $300,000 or more, we would love to invite you to either scan the QR code or call 844-861-5203. That's 844-861-5203, and schedule a time to come in and visit with us. Our team is there to help you look at making sure you have enough income in retirement, and what we're going to do is build you an income plan. It sounds fancy, but it's really not. We're going to understand what your sit on the porch number is, how much income you really need and want in retirement, and then how do we have to set your plan up to support you throughout this. So again, scan the QR code, call 844-861-5203, and find a time to come in and visit with us.
Scott, Angela, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, that number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 844-861-5203, or you're welcome to scan that QR code. Just simply take out your smartphone. You can scan the code right on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That'll take you over to a landing page, ask you a few simple questions, and a member of the Compass Retirement team will reach out to you to be able to get you connected to come in and get your complimentary RetireSimply plan. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more ways for you to generate income in retirement and how you can determine what that right sit on the porch number is for you. Stay with us.
You've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Well, welcome back to Retire Simply DFW. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Scott and Angela Winstead, co-founders of Compass Retirement, and a fabulous conversation we're having today about all things income planning for retirement. We've talked about the importance of generating an income plan. I'm curious, we talked about the income gap, which is the difference between what someone needs to live off of in retirement and the guaranteed amount of income that someone has coming in. Talk to me a little bit about that income gap, because obviously that's a scary thing for someone to recognize, but it's so critical in order to fix it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it is a scary thing. But that is the point when you said recognize. So when people actually take the time to sit down and think about, okay, because typically they're working and saving and spending and working and saving and spending, and everything changes when you retire. So really thinking about, how much do I really spend every month? Really, what is it that I'm going to want to do in retirement? And having the numbers and knowing the gap really empowers you to then take care of it, take action. But if we don't know, that's when we have the anxiety. That's when retirement might not sound so fun.
Right. Well, and to your point, Angela, I think it's fascinating. You talked about things change. And to your point, a lot of people are busy in the accumulation years, right? And then all of a sudden that pivotal transition happens to the decumulation, where now you need to spend the money that you've been saving all those years. There's a psychological component to that. There's an emotional component. I'm sure you help folks navigate that all the time as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's very emotional. Even the whole idea of retiring, right? I was so-and-so at this company, everybody knew me
My
as
identity.
this. Exactly. That's emotional. And then really having to deal with the numbers can be very emotional for people. But addressing it empowers you. And knowing how, we oftentimes say, you know, a lot of people know how to save money. Ever since we were small children, we knew to put money in a piggy bank, and voila, we were saving.
That's what we were taught to do, right?
Yes, absolutely. And even if we weren't great savers, we still knew what it meant, right? But the taking money out of accounts and generating income in retirement is really a different type of beast. It can be complicated, but we work really hard at making it simple.
I mean, in our Retire Simply plan, we have Simply is an acronym, and the I in Simply stands for income generation, right? And it is unnatural to all of a sudden have to start taking money out of your accounts when you've only ever really seen the balances go up because you've been saving. And it can be quite scary to be like, hey, my income just stopped. Right.
I don't want to touch it.
That's right. And now I've got to start taking money out. That can be a frightening thing. And that feeling is not lost on us. That's one of the things that through our planning that we help people really do is how do you kind of systematically build this, and when you know, it takes the fear and sets it aside, so now you can say, hey, I'm confident, I know I'm going to have the income I want, I know I'm going to be able to do the things I want to do in retirement, and then you can be fully present with your family and friends and on those vacations.
Absolutely. Well, just like your name, a compass, right? You're helping folks navigate all these important pieces of their retirement puzzle. And I know, Angela, you had shared a story with me about someone that you've gotten to help, and I would love for our viewers to get to hear that.
Oh, this is fantastic. So I just want to share the story of the Sit on the Porch number. We're real big about giving credit when it wasn't our idea. And years ago, Scott and I were meeting with a couple. This is when we were meeting with couples together. And they walked in and they were nervous. But it was really easy to tell in this situation that the wife had taken care of all of the finances, knew all of the numbers. And the husband, he is just a good old Texas boy. I mean, relaxed, confident. And we were really talking through all of this stuff and making sure we were looking at the numbers. And he said, and we were working through income and running them through exactly everything that they needed to be able to plan for. And he said, well, you know, y'all, it sounds to me like you're talking about the amount of money it just takes me to sit on my front porch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're brilliant. That's the
we
Sit on
said
the
we're
Porch
taking
number.
that, but we will always give you credit for it.
I love that.
And we love you for that. It's helped so many people, make it simple. And it's easy to identify. It's not a scary thing when we're talking about sitting on your porch, right? So it really helps people jump over that hurdle of numbers are kind of scary and having to figure it all out. Not if we're just figuring out what it costs to sit on your front porch. It's a different approach.
So how do you go about starting that process for someone and helping them identify what their sit on the porch number is?
You know, the first thing we want to do is identify really, okay, what's the goal? And what we have found is most people don't necessarily want to change their lifestyle once they retire. They are used to a certain lifestyle while they're working, and they want to make sure they can continue.
And now
that.
they want to enjoy that they have the time to enjoy it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the first thing we have to identify is, okay, what is the sit on the porch number? Because that's the goal. That's what we need.
Yep.
And then maybe add a little bit to that on top of a trip or something like that. So we start there. Then we start to back out and say, okay, if you didn't have any other investments or any other money, what income will you have in retirement that's just guaranteed to be there? Whether that's a pension, maybe if you're a teacher, that's you know, their pension system, maybe it's Social Security, right? But what is that number?
Right.
And then what we start to look at is say, okay, well, what's the shortfall, or what's the difference between what's guaranteed and what you want?
Right, the income gap that we talked about. Yep.
And then what we have to start to do is say, okay, let's now look at building you an income plan. Again, sounds fancy, it's not fancy. All it is, hey, here's how much money you've been able to save, and here's how much income you want, and what do we need to do with that amount of money you've saved to make sure we get that amount of income so that, number one, you don't run out, and number two, it grows, because we all know that if you need $5,000 a month today to sit on your porch, you're not going to need $5,000 a month 10 years from now. You're probably going to need quite a bit more, right?
Thanks to inflation and everything else going on. Yep.
And then lastly, if you're married, and I cannot stress this enough, if you are married watching today, you really want and need an income plan, because when you think about a married couple, if each spouse is collecting their Social Security and one spouse passes away, one of those Social Securities typically goes away, and that's something that we have to account for in our income plan. So we've got to make sure that in the event of a premature death or something like that, that hey, the surviving spouse is taken care of in that regard.
Absolutely.
Oh, you know, honey, I can't help this. So let me speak to you ladies out there for just 1 second. The stats on that are 80% of men die married. So what does that mean? Typically that means, ladies, if that income gap and the plan and everything we've put together, if it's going to work, you're the one who's going to find out if it works or not, typically. So if you haven't gotten involved, I invite you to get involved. It's really important for everybody to be on the same page with that.
Absolutely. That's something I'm so passionate about as well, for sure. Well, I know we are going to cut to another commercial break, but would you mind sharing for our viewers again about this RetireSimply income plan that they're going to get when they call the number today?
Sure. It is a fantastic plan where it just gives you the information. Yes, you've done a great job saving. I'm sure that you have. But it gives you the information to know where we're going to draw that money from when you need money. So when your paycheck stops, let us help you generate the paycheck for retirement. So if you're 3 to 5 years away from retiring, maybe you're already retired. If you've saved $300,000 or more for your retirement, I invite you to pick up that phone right now and give us a call. We are waiting to help you. We have a fantastic team that can't wait to help you. Just pick up the phone and dial 844-861-5203. Again, that's 844-861-5203. And you will be amazed at how much better you feel once you understand the plan.
Angela, Scott, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, we encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. No cost, no charge, no obligation to come in and sit down with Scott and Angela and the team at Compass Retirement and get your own complimentary RetireSimply income plan. Give yourself the gift of the peace of mind that can come from knowing what your sit on the porch number is. Call the number on the bottom of your screen, 844-861-5203, or you're welcome to scan that QR code that will get you connected to come in as well. We have so many more strategies to talk about how you can generate income in retirement. Stay with us right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter, the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Retire Simply DFW. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Scott and Angela Winstead, co-founders of Compass Retirement, and we are talking today about all things income generation, how folks can make sure that they have a solid income plan in retirement. We've been talking about different strategies. So, Scott, I know we were talking during the commercial break about how critical it is for folks to really understand these different components. So what would you say to someone who's watching right now just going, man, I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to generate this. What's going to happen when they get to come in and meet with you?
Absolutely. So when someone comes in and visits with us and they don't really know where to start, one of the first things we want to do is, number one, establish, okay, what is that sit on the porch number, which is simply how much money do you need every month to make your lifestyle work, okay? Then what we've got to start to say is, how do you want your income structured? Because again, it is customized. So some folks sleep really well at night if all their income is 100% guaranteed, and it's going to hit on the 25th of every month,
and
their
know,
bank
right?
account.
It is
just like that paycheck used to when they worked, right? So some folks, that works great, and guess what? There are amazing tools out there that we can use to make sure that income's guaranteed. You know what you're going to get. There's no surprises, and even if your money runs out, you're still going to get that paycheck. Some folks love that. Other folks say, you know what? I want my guaranteed income to just be my Social Security and my pension, because my lifestyle really, that's taken care of with those sources of income.
That fixes their sit on the porch number,
That's right. However, maybe I want to take a big European vacation, a river cruise. So this year, I'd love to be able to take out an extra $10,000 of income at my discretion to be able to take that trip. But you know what? I might not take that trip next year, so I don't always need that $10,000. And you know, a quick story. During COVID, what we found was a lot of the folks that had everything guaranteed, like it was coming in and you couldn't shut it off, like a Social Security or a pension, and that guaranteed income. A lot of times that money, Kristen, is coming in from an account that's going to cause taxes when that income comes in.
Yes, there's tax implications,
Only during COVID, you're not taking the $10,000 trip. So now you're in a situation where, okay, I had money that came into me because it was guaranteed. I had to pay income tax on that, but I didn't take the trip, and it messed me up tax-wise. And we found folks that actually wish they would have given themselves a little more flexibility in retirement. So for us, what we find to be best is to make sure know what that guaranteed number is. That'd be things like your Social Security and your pension. And then the shortfall we might have between there and what your sit on the porch number is, that goal. Let's build you a plan with flexibility. So if you need the income, you know you can take it and you're going to be okay. But if you don't need the income, you can hold off. You're in control of your income, which indirectly puts you in control of your taxation, which is very important in retirement.
Oh, for sure. And, go ahead.
No, you'll hear me repeat this time and time again. One of the most important things in retirement is to make sure that you are flexible and nimble. Things change, and people don't really understand that because they haven't gone through it yet, right? So preparing for things to change and really being able to be flexible and nimble really puts you in that power position instead of, Scott, like Scott said, instead of having that income just come no matter what, whether you want it or not.
And we find it really compounds the issue when that income comes in and you don't spend it, because typically when it comes in, it's taxable to you, right? Then if you're not spending it, what are you doing with it? And here's what we find. Most people take the leftover income and they want to go reinvest it someplace. So then when that money grows, we can pay what again?
Taxes again.
And that's this whole hamster wheel that the IRS and the federal government hope that folks in retirement get on, is that you're paying tax on the same dollar 2 and 3 separate times. And we find it's just a very, very inefficient way to move through retirement in terms of building out your income.
I mean, there's just so much to think about, right? And I think that's what speaks to your expertise, that you're able to help folks engage in the strategic tax planning as it relates to their income plan, because a lot of folks would do that and not even think, oh gosh, this money is actually getting taxed 2 or 3 times.
That's it, Kristen. Awareness is key, right? That's why we get out, that's why we teach, that's why we share this information. Awareness is key, and it really empowers you to get yourself set up and structured properly for retirement. And that's going to be different for everybody. Like Scott was saying, whether you want guaranteed income or you don't want guaranteed income, retirement really is very independent and unique for each person, but there are some universal principles that we have to abide by.
And we always say today retirement planning is a contact sport. The days of just sitting there and hoping it takes care of itself seem to have gone by the wayside.
No more set it, forget it.
No more set
you
it,
have
forget
to actively be involved.
That's right. You have to act. And it doesn't mean it needs to be complicated. And it doesn't mean it needs to be in a vocabulary that maybe you don't understand. But you have to have a plan to move through retirement. And that's why with our Retire Simply plan, we have boiled this down so easy to understand that we actually use our young kids as the filter to see how simple have we made it. If they can understand it, we know we've got it laid out. Right?
That's true. Shout out to the kids.
For sure. Well, I'm sure you help folks dream again too, because I think a lot of people, they've been so busy working and accumulating and saving, we've forgotten how to dream a lot of times. You get to retirement and now you get to decide what you want to do. It's that empowering piece of you telling your money how you want it to work for you.
Yeah, you'll hear us talk in the office all the time, because we are blessed to be able to see people going through this change, this transition of working into retirement. And when we're talking about the money and the income and everything, I'm like, hey, this is just like being a kid again, except for this time you've got money. Like, this is awesome. Let's just get it set right.
And one of the things we believe at the very core of who we are is that money is here to serve us and not the other way around. You've worked your entire life to save, to prepare for this stage of life, and it needs to be able to be set up in a manner to serve you and what you're looking for. And again, that's different for everyone, but fundamentally, the structure, we kind of sometimes equate it to like building a house, right? There's always a foundation and walls and a roof, but everybody's home looks a little bit different. Same thing in a retirement plan. The foundation of how we structure it looks the same, but it's all going to be a little bit different depending on what the goals are.
For sure. Well, Scott, Angela, thank you so much for being here today. To our viewers at home, thank you so much for watching. We hope that you found today's information to be very helpful and beneficial as you think about what you need to do to help generate income for yourself in retirement. But here's the good news, you don't have to go it alone. Even though it might be new to you, it's not new to Scott and Angela and the team at Compass Retirement. Pick up the phone and call the number on the bottom of your screen, 844-861-5203, to get your complimentary Retire Simply plan. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.